Oh boy. Oh my gosh. So here we are, you guys. It's been a long couple of months. Just want to say thanks for hanging in there and welcome to episode number 130 of Mirrorless Minutes. I'm your frazzled host, Jamie, and Mike is a little frazzled too, working on some technical stuff in the background. Par for the course with Mirrorless Minutes. Nothing's changed in 2 months of not doing this show. It's still the same hit or miss kind of a affair half the time, it seems like. But welcome back. It's cool to see Mike is at home, which is a rarity.
Yeah, it is.
I honestly didn't think that we would do the next show with you at home. I'm kind of surprised.
I know. And, yeah, it might be more like that. We've got I don't know if I'm going to travel as much this year. Which could be
good for you.
For me.
Yeah. Good for you. Yeah, that's good. It's time to slow down a little bit.
Exactly.
So I guess we'll kind of jump into the show, and I'll start off with a little bit about why we hadn't been live or on the air or what have you for the last couple of months. I know that I was telling Mike before the show, I had these assumptions that just everybody knew because we have such a really tight-knit community, but we've also got a group of people, a lot of people actually, that watch all over the world that we don't really interact with on a regular basis like we do a lot of you out there. And so for those who didn't know or weren't aware of, my wife had been battling breast cancer for almost 6 years. She passed away November 9th, 3 days short of the 6-year anniversary of her diagnosis. So, and it kind of came about rather suddenly. She'd been feeling a little under the weather. And for any of you out there who have lost some of the cancer, some of you may know that sometimes that this is how it can happen. It can be fast. Mike just kind of disappeared. He'll be back. So needless to say, it was a shock. Something that even though, we had 6 years of fighting and 6 years of this kind of always living in the back of our minds, it's still something that you're really never prepared for. For those of you who don't know me on a personal level, I have 2 children. I've got a 13-year-old son and a 19-year-old son. So that adds to the strain of it all, to the complexity, to the coping and all of that. Finding a new life after that. So now it's 3 men in the house. So needless to say, things are a little disorganized currently. But we're doing pretty good. No one's died of food poisoning, luckily. My youngest is an aspiring chef, so thank God for that. We actually eat really well. But we're hanging in there. And for all of you who reached out, who did know, if I didn't get back to you and thank you, I'm taking the time right now, just kind of broadly, to say thank you. There were a lot of very sweet and generous people that genuinely care and reached out, and I can't. I don't think I can ever express how important that was. So I'm not gonna do this.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, it was. It's been a long couple of months. It's been a journey, and actually, in the last couple of months, I've really taken almost no photos, and it's kind of scaring the hell out of me a little bit. But per the title of this show, getting back in the saddle again isn't just about getting the show back on the air, but it's also about getting myself behind the viewfinder once again and finding my way in that. So won't talk about that much more. If you've got any questions or anything, you always know how to get a hold of me, you guys. I'm easy to find on social media, so feel free to reach out. So with that said, let's just kind of talk a little bit about maybe, what you've been up to, Mike.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll take over.
Sure.
I don't want you to have to sit there and try to keep talking. Did you notice I popped out?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So when I had to go in and change system preferences, it said you must quit now. And when I hit quit now, I didn't know it meant everything.
Just give up, quit.
So I had all kinds of craziness, swearing there for a second. We'll see if the screen share works. I don't know, but so yeah, it's it has been the things you've experienced certainly aren't exactly the same, but the not shooting as much is probably with me. but it's shooting differently. And I think we talked about that a little bit before the show. Is
Yeah.
the real way we've really been shooting differently, and I'm sort of excited about it, actually, because I'm like a little happier. Not, I'm just a little relieved, maybe. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it and just around the time, I know that everything now, she's 2 months old, but I had my first granddaughter, and she's going to make her Mirrorless Minutes debut tonight. So she'll be
cool.
in a picture. And things have changed. My son and daughter-in-law, who've been married, I think we've talked to them maybe before. I've talked about it, like 13 years. They've been trying to have kids, and so they finally got the chance to adopt a baby girl. And the world has changed for them. It's changed for us. It's now I'm thinking about the college plan I started for her, and all the other things that are take place when you have a new kid like that around.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she's 4 hours away, but I think we've made the trek 8 times now in 4 months.
Wow.
So, or 2 months,
Cool.
2 months.
Very cool. That's good.
So yeah, lots of different things going on in both of our lives.
Yeah, for sure.
Needless to say, but
yeah. So,
mhm.
You kind of touched on, I think, one of the big subjects that we'll talk about tonight, and that is your photography changing.
Mhm.
And do you want to jump into that first, or you want me to jump into it? I think we both kind of have very similar thoughts, maybe different motivators behind some of them.
Right.
But I think it's a good topic, and I think it's something that I think will be relevant for a lot of people who find themselves in ruts like I'm currently in right now anyways.
Yeah.
So you want me to jump in, or?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You start and tell us what's happening, how you're looking at it.
Sure. So I think it all started actually with being moved from the Visionary program into an educator role. I feel like it's opened a lot of doors for me with other things. We'll talk about this a little bit later. Using this as a door that has been opened, and some other things. But I think one of the big things that it has shifted in me is that I think when you're titled in such a way and put in a position where you're representing a company to a certain level, you feel this pressure to, I don't want to say perform, but it's kind of what it is. I mean, we all create, but I think for me personally anyways, there was always this little bit extra motivation or drive in the back of my head to always do bigger and better, always go a little bit further. I'm falling in the water during 15-foot waves on Lake Michigan to get shots, traveling far and wide, in all conditions to just try to get a bigger and better shot, something more and more grand. And social media drives that a lot. I mean, if you look at Instagram, if you're a landscape photographer, especially, if you look at Instagram, there's this constant push to make it bigger, make it brighter, make it more wow, and then, you add to that the fact that, you're representing companies, and it's another motivator to do that. And I love it. I loved it. It's been great and fun, and I've learned a lot along the way, but it's kind of tiring. You feel like you're always on, and you're always pushing. And then it sort of becomes more work, I think, because you're driving so hard at it. For some people, maybe it just comes totally easy, and that's just all they ever make is just fabulous without it being like this big production for them to do so. If you're a full-time photographer, maybe it's easier.
I was just going to say, it might be a little easier when your day job doesn't, ours doesn't really go away.
Right. Juggling work and home life with ambassadorships and social followings and all these interactions and engagements, it's work and it's taxing. And after years of doing that, I think that not feeling the pressure so much as a visionary has made me realize, I can slow down and maybe get back into more of the roots of what really makes me happy shooting. It's not to say that those pictures don't. I love making those, but I think I'm going to be putting a lot less pressure on myself this year to quote unquote perform for social and perform for brands and things like that, and just kind of get back into the core of shooting. And I've got a couple of images that I'll share tonight that just it's kind of after the click happened to me, and that totally wasn't even a pun, the click, but
that was good though.
It's a pun after I say it and acknowledge that it wasn't a pun, I guess. But it's just I took a couple of photos and they're just very basic, very simple, no frills, nothing crazy fancy, but they just made me realize I kind of like doing these simpler things too. And I think I'm going to gravitate towards that this year and not feel like I have to go over the top all the time.
Yeah. And I do. I think whether you intentionally do it or you do it or you don't intentionally do it, the social part does drive so much. And I mean, even take it to the degree past where you were, or past where I was, way past that, where these people are getting on the sides of the mountains and falling over and killing themselves because they got to have the selfie or whatever. Shot, yeah. I mean, it's just, it's got a point where it's got to say, hey, enough. But you can actually re-energize yourself through it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's a statement to everybody that's watching is it doesn't end it. It just changes it. That's right. All. I mean, the love for photography is still there for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm positive, that kind of stuff doesn't leave you. It just changes a little bit in that. But so do you want to share stuff now? We could. We've been talking about it. So
I totally can. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just pop these up here real quick.
Yeah.
So this was the last trip that I took of last year. It was in November. It was probably just a couple of weeks before Becky passed away. And this was a personal trip to the UP. This was like just a soul searching trip to the UP. And this is I want to say that this is at Wagner Falls, maybe. I'm totally drawing a blank on it, but I'm pretty sure it's Wagner Falls. This was shot with, let me pull up my my little inspector window here, wherever it went. So this was shot on, this was the Sony. So let me talk a little bit about that really quick. So on that trip, I'm writing a series of articles for Borrow Lenses, and as part of that agreement with them, they'll send me equipment when I want for trips, and I had been wanting to shoot with the Sony A7 III. And so they sent me that, and they sent a couple of lenses to go along with it. So this was just me kind of testing out if I could handhold a little bit longer exposures. You got to compare it to Olympus because nobody does the image stabilization like Olympus in this game.
Exactly.
So that was kind of where my test was at shooting with this. So this is shot at f11, no filters on it because it was really rainy and drizzly, and my filters just kept getting covered with mist, and it was just horrible for trying to use filters. So I ended up stopping down to f11, and I was at ISO 50 on this one, and this is about a half a second exposure. So it's easy to pull off a half a second exposure on almost anything when you're shooting ultra wide, and this was shot at 12 millimeters. So 12 millimeters on this full frame camera with the aspect ratio that they have is just dramatically wide. So kind of fun to put that through its paces. And again, just as part of the whole soul searching thing, while I'm traveling in the UP, just came up to an overlook that I'd been to probably a half a dozen times before in Munising. And this was shot at 105 millimeters. I kind of wanted to compress the shot a little bit to draw the background in. If I would have shot it with a wide angle, the island out there in the distance on the other side of the bay would have been minuscule. So by standing at the far end of this walkway that's headed down to this overlook, and then zooming into 105 millimeters, it gave me the ability to kind of bring that background in a little bit. And I was up there for a perfect time of year. I mean, you had fall colors everywhere. It was just spectacularly gorgeous.
Yeah, that's a cool shot. I like that.
Yeah, I appreciate it
a lot.
It's definitely it's a UP moment for sure.
Yeah, that's got a real a pure Michigan feel to it.
This one does not have a pure Michigan. So this one is this was shot after getting a phone call from Becky saying that she had to go to the hospital. This was my rush home from the UP, kind of the beginning of the whole cycle of her being in the hospital for like the last week and a half or so. And this was just found on a roadside on the way back from the UP. I am a sucker for just these big old abandoned houses or abandoned anything. I half wonder if I got that from shooting with you in Detroit at some of the places that we went.
Well, this reminds me of the homes that Brian Bright was taking us to that were right there in Romeo.
Yes.
Just outside of Romeo, there were so many of these abandoned houses like this.
Yeah, and when
You
I see
know?
something like this, I cannot pass it up at all.
Yeah.
You know, and again, so all of these were shot with the Sony A7 III, and this was with the 24-105, and this is at the widest end, the 24 millimeters. The next shot, though, this was after Becky had passed away, and I had taken a trip to Jackson. I just needed to breathe. And the first thing I did is I grabbed my EM1X and grabbed just two lenses with me, the 7-14 and the 12-100, and just started walking. And I don't know what it is about this image, but I love the simplicity of this image. So this is just on an abandoned building. It's a plywood piece that was over a window that had been spray painted black, and there was this dead vine that was creeping up along it, and it looks like it's light cascading across the face of this piece of wood. Actually, it's white spray paint, but there's something about the simplicity of this that just
looks like a question mark.
Yeah, it does.
You know,
it really does. And I think that it was when I took this photo, it clicked in my head that it doesn't have to be crazy big. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be anything other than simplicity sometimes to make a statement. And for me, you know, again, maybe it's just the time that I took it, you know, where I was at emotionally or what have you, but it was just something that really kind of resonated with me. And this was actually just shot on the other side of the building from where that previous photo was shot at. And just, that's another thing that I'm going to be talking about probably a lot more this year, and that's shooting in black and white. I really miss shooting in black and white. Again, part of the whole social media thing is on Instagram and all that. Everything is just, you know, tone mapped, full of color, full of dynamic range, and just da 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 da. And sometimes you don't need all of that to actually make the image. Sometimes you strip away all the color and you get down to the bare bones of what makes a photograph. You know, it's light and texture and shape, and that's kind of what made me realize that, again, shooting this one right here was just simple. And then the last shot, it's funny. So a really close friend of mine she's been egging me on to take photos. She's like, you know, you need to get out. This is therapy for you. I know how much it means to you. Just take your camera. I want to see you post something. So I took a photo of this post and I shared it on Instagram, and I said, here's your post. So it's just basic and simple, but I just liked the way that the light was falling into the alley, and you know, again, playing with a full frame camera at f1.8, you know, the depth of field, the cutoff was just really great and fun, and just something about that moment, just simplicity. I think that's just my big message, you know, is just, I just kind of want to get back to
don't overcomplicate things.
No. And, you know, it's not to say again that I won't. So I'm going to Iceland in June with my kids. We're going to be there for 10 days. We're going to drive around the entire country by camper van. And we're getting off the beaten path, as far away from the masses as we can get on that island. So I'm sure returning from that trip and another trip I've got planned for the fall, there'll be plenty of big grand and all of that.
Yeah,
too.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Doesn't mean I won't do it. But I think in the interim, I think to fill my time, I'm going to get back to just simple and enjoying photography.
Yeah. That's exciting. Actually, it can be really, you know, get you through things. That's for sure.
So let me answer Bob's question really quick. Else too. Okay, so the difference between visionaries, educators, and explorers, I'm not 100% certain. So educators are just that. People that run workshops, people that do probably educational YouTube videos, people that teach classes, educational presentations, things like that. I know that that's basically what all the visionaries do too, or a lot of them anyways. I mean, Joe Edelman is like 100% an educational guy. But I really don't have a full answer on what the division is between the two. I think it's maybe because we're more known from the educational aspect. So between educators and visionaries, explorers are just kind of the people I was talking about, what I'm kind of gravitating away from. And those are the people that they just travel and they shoot the big shot. They go to the exotic location and they're just socially just slamming.
Think Instagram.
Yes, find somebody popular on Instagram that has 500,000 followers. They would probably be classified as an explorer.
Yeah.
As with anybody else, I'm not sure about the educate or the explorer side of things. So with Visionaries, they shoot exclusively Olympus equipment. Educators, we've got the leeway to work with other equipment, which really makes sense, because if you're going to teach someone who is a Sony or a Fuji user, you should know how to use their stuff, so that when you start teaching them Olympus equipment, you can show them how to find those things on the respective cameras. Explorers, I really don't know what their criteria is. It's not something that that we're really a part of, or just
we really don't even get involved with them at all. So
yep,
but that's good.
So you said you'd never heard of any of the explorers. There's probably like 1 million people on Instagram that would qualify as an explorer. I mean, because, it's just so huge, and there are so many people with humongous followings. It's probably hard to know who some of these people are. I mean, especially if you don't, live on Instagram. Bob, I'm just going to break it to you. We're of a certain age that we probably don't know who all the cool kids are anymore, and that's fine.
I don't think we're invited to many of those parties either. Last I checked.
That's right. We don't get invited to the cool kids parties. We sit at the front of the bus, Bob. Okay, they sit in the back and they take the cool pictures in Uruguay or wherever they're at. So
what's Instagram? I love that comment. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Let's see. Do you want to? I can go in and talk about mine, and then I'm just interested to see if the screen share works at this point. Yeah. Right. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, are you seeing the? Are you seeing the ability for that thing to come up?
Oh, here it is.
Okay. So I don't want to show that one right now because I want to show this one.
There we go.
Okay, so yes, that's her screen mirrorless minutes debut. My son would probably kill me for putting her on. I didn't even ask him, but it's my granddaughter. So, but these are the simple things. I get very simple. I haven't been out doing a whole lot, but with the new granddaughter, and she was able to come in for Christmas, and they visited for a couple days, and we were trying to let my son and daughter-in-law just get some rest. If anyone knows or has, or certainly many people have had a 2-month-old baby, there's no rest. So this was a fun picture. Behind her is just a ceramic Christmas tree. I bet you there's thousands of those all over the world set up. And this is with the EM1X and the 1.2 17 millimeter shot. And it was dark. She was sleeping. It was dark. So I just love the thought of the picture and that. And the next two are from family things. And this is what we were saying. I just want to remind people, sometimes I know when everybody tries to make a big production, they want to get lots of pictures of the family at Christmas time. And I don't think anything's wrong with that. You do want to do that, but don't forget to take the fun pictures. And so this one here, that's my daughter-in-law. And of course that's Kira. They're wide awake. But inside of somebody's present in the packing, like we got this crazy frame, this wood frame for protection. That thing got passed around 100 times.
Awesome.
And I got everybody's picture framed. and I'm telling you, I took them and we're going to wrap them with wrapping paper, and we're keeping them out for every year.
Awesome.
And they were the most fun. And I think, everybody, I don't know how most photographers are. You probably get a lot of people rolling their eyes at you. That's what always happens. Like, God, can you get that camera out of my face? I'm here to enjoy Christmas. We had 26 people over, but all of a sudden this frame comes out and everybody wants their picture taken.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of fun. And, and before all the fun starts and the wrapping and the kids come over, don't forget, and this is just a shot, don't forget to take the family picture with everybody in it every year. It really is easy to just pass that up and forget it, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
And, and that was set up in the last minute. I go, oh gosh, everybody, we're not opening a gift till I get the family picture. It's just to, see who was there this year and when's the first year that Kira got there, all that kind of stuff. So this is over Christmas, I think maybe a day or two after, down into Detroit, out there with Lou. Peoples went out shooting early morning. The weather's been really pretty nice. I mean, I'm sure you feel that way too. From the weather perspective, it hasn't been horribly cold.
No.
We're going to get some nasty weather, it sounds like, in the next couple of days, especially you. It sounds like the rain, ice rain or something. But anyways, this is a great shot of they have this huge light set up for Detroit right on the street. And those are maybe 6 or 7 foot tall. Each of those letters, sprawled out across the sidewalk. And I wanted to get some live composite in there at the same time. And it was a weekday because it was right after Christmas. And so we had a lot of nice bus action going by. So good time for live composite. EM1X. This is the 12 to 100. I was shooting with the EM1X, obviously in live composite. And at the same time, so is this next one. And this is our bus depot, or our bus station, I guess, as you want to call it, down in Detroit. And you can get some crazy shots here, different sky, all around with that canopy that they have. And I've always wanted to get some different angle shots, and I was able to set this up. And as you can see, it was very cloudy that morning. It wasn't anything to speak of when it comes to the sun coming up, but certainly pretty cool with the buses coming through and all that. And then for some of you that know me, my son's a varsity basketball coach, and so he was coaching over Christmas in a Christmas tournament. So it's a great time to break out the EM1X with the 40 to 150 and start doing some pro capture. And I'll tell you what, I just love that camera for that. There's nothing better. And I just, I love how the clarity of some of these shots. I can't believe how clear I end up getting this guy's face coming around. And then, between this one, I think I had a series of 20 in a row where he was just running there. This is just so everybody knows, and I don't know if you're picking up the clarity through YouTube channel, but 500th of a second ISO is 2500 on this, and it's set in Pro Capture and on the low, on Pro Capture low. I don't usually ever do the high. It's in basketball, they don't move that fast. But this is when it's the most fun, our dunks. Yeah. I think this kid here, he probably doesn't even really know me. He just talked to my son after, because I sent him every one of the pictures, and as clear as this one is, every single one, and there are 14 of them, of when he started to go up and when he was coming down, and he was blown away. He thought he was on Sports Center.
What lens were you shooting that with?
The 40 to 150.
Nice.
Yeah, 40 to 150. F2. I was shooting that one and the other one at 2.8 as well. I did bring the 17 with me and went down to 1.2 and got baseline shots.
Yeah.
And I don't have any here to show. I've got some extremely clear ones, that's for sure. But you just don't get close enough without the zoom, really.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to navigate from sidelines, and the lighting, believe it or not, in this corner of the gym was so much better than the lighting that was up in here in the middle. So, and it's a high school gym, you get that. So you can see how much it's just got a lot more tone in it, I think, and everything. Yeah. You can see his muscles and his arms. And hey, there were 2 dunks in the game. This is how good Pro Capture is, and I got both of the dunks.
Nice.
And both clear, and that's good. If you can pull that off, then you've done a decent job at least capturing the game and the fun of it. So
nice.
Yeah, simple stuff, nothing gigantic. And that was it. I haven't done much street shooting. I will though. I've got some plans to do some soon, but nothing right this minute. It's been busy. I mean, I'll tell you, it's been busy at work. We bought a little racetrack called the Indy 500, and and comes in about the entire Indy series racing. And people have been a little busy at my work.
I can imagine.
So.
For sure. So I know we're getting about to the end of the time. Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about workshops, or because I know you've got one coming up with Derek?
I do have one coming up in LA. God, if I can remember the darn dates. It's March 22nd, I believe. If you go to the digital store, you'll get it. I may be off a day. It's in LA. I do believe there's 1 or 2 spots still open. Derek Story is originally from that area.
Yeah.
He lives in Northern California now and has for many years. But so he really knows the area. He's got some really cool places where he knows where to go. And street photography in LA is fun. Only thing is we're going to be out on Ventura Beach, and we've got a really cool old hotel down by there that's really neat with its own meeting rooms and stuff. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. That's my next big workshop wise thing. And then you and I'll talk and we'll get something together sometime. It may be so darn local, it could be in Eaton Rapids. You never know.
Oh boy, that would be a very no.
No,
we're not doing that for sure. Not Eaton Rapids. Yeah.
All right.
So I don't have anything solidified yet, but I'm planning on doing something with Jerry James this year, probably in the fall. Looking at either something East Coast like Maine or potentially Hocking Hills in Ohio. I know that's a popular spot. It's gorgeous area. Something that I haven't done yet, so it'll be probably something where Jerry and I go down and scout over the summer and just kind of get a feel for the area. And then I mentioned earlier that my children and I will be in Iceland for 10 days in June. And that is, I'm going to admit, it's as much of a family trip as it is a scouting trip for 2021. I'm doing Iceland in 2021. I'm not sure who I'm going to be teaching with there. I got to get the logistics of that figured out, but I'm going to run 2, probably 3-day workshops in Iceland. I know you'd probably want more time. Iceland is an expensive trip. So I think what I'm probably going to set this up as is something where it's just a couple of short 3-day workshops. You could either do a 3-day workshop or you could sign up for both sessions. I'm going to do each of the 3 workshops in different areas. So you could either get one longer workshop out of it, or you could come in and do a short 3-day workshop and then venture off on your own. And I would supply you with information on where to go, whether you were joining us for the first 3 days or the second 3 days. Just to give you an idea of where you could go. After 10 days of being there and scouting for the 2021 workshop, I think I'll have a pretty good idea of where to go. Because like I said, we're not just hitting the touristy areas around Reykjavik and just north of there in South Iceland. We're actually going to be we're circumnavigating the country. So the workshops that I'm going to do, we will obviously hit some of the more popular areas that everybody wants to see or knows about, but then we'll spend time venturing forth from there. And I'll preface this whole thing with something that I've learned over the last couple of years of workshops. I think moving forward, some of the workshops that I do are probably going to be geared towards a different audience than I have in the past. These will probably be a little more, we'll say adventure based. So it'll cater to a crowd who is comfortable sleeping in camper vans, who is comfortable hiking for miles and things of that nature. Not to preclude anybody from these trips, but I just want to let people know, be forewarned that moving forward, some of these workshops will definitely be a little more adventurous than previous ones. The UP workshop that I did this last fall, while it wasn't crazy rigorous, we did go to a few places that were off the path a little bit, I'll say. And I think I shared photos from one of the waterfalls that we went to, and there's a gentleman, Andrew Oakey. I shared a photo of him sitting basically perched up on this, probably a 30-foot ledge overlooking a waterfall to get the shot. So, just know that moving forward, some of these workshops will be geared towards that audience, a little more on the edge, we'll say.
Yeah, so, cool. Yeah,
anyway,
make it more of an experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Don't want to get the parking lot shots if we don't have to. So
yeah, we can all get those.
Yeah.
All right.
So I guess with that being said, I guess we'll kind of tune out and see you guys in 2 more weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
We're good to go from here. Hopefully I have some photos. I think maybe on the next show we'll talk about some gear. I know you wanted to talk about the Peak Design tripod, and I want to talk about what it's been like with a different system, completely different system. So
yeah, we'll have some other gear to talk about.
All right, sounds good. Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and
yeah, everyone,
the support during the downtime. You guys take care.
Thanks, brother. Take it easy.